All right, y'all, who's ready for a breakthrough that leads to love? Because the hard work in our Venus sequence, the challenge between the IQ and the EQ, we're now through it, and we're ready for the breakthrough into our SQ, our spiritual quotient, which brings us into love. The SQ typically results from an imprint that comes from ages 0 to 7 years old. It's just something to be mindful of when you're contemplating the shadow, gift, and city frequencies of your SQ. I'm Molly. You're watching Mirror Readings. Let's get into the lines of our spiritual quotient. The SQ is a measure of our ability to remain connected to spiritual life. Of course, we're always going to get pulled back into the cycle of human drama, and being down here in third density, it's like very easy to get lost in the sauce. So if you're stabilized in the gift of your SQ, that means you have an ongoing connection that you can feel in your day-to-day life to the spiritual world. As we're connecting spiritually through our relationships, we are uncovering what was lost in childhood. This is something to contemplate as you're looking at the gene key of your SQ, which is what did you lose as a child between ages 0 and 7 that you're still looking for as an adult. One more thing to remember before we get into the lines of the SQ is that as we contemplate them, to remember that each one of these 6 lines has to do with some kind of quality of consciousness a developing child needs. So like line 1 is certainty. That's rhythm and routine. When a child comes into the world, from the moment that the birth cord is cut, remember, when you're a little human baby, you're completely helpless. They need certainty. They cannot survive without the certainty that they'll be taken care of. In a shadow state, line 1s are going to reach outside of themselves for certainty. In any connection that they're in, they're going to be grasping rather desperately at times for some kind of reassurance, but they're never going to find it in the external. If you've been following along my other videos about the lines, you know that line 1s require a lot more alone time to develop than the others. So line 1s really need to embrace the rhythm of life. Even the rhythm of just their heartbeat or the change of season. You can find rhythm throughout nature, and line 1s need to connect with that individually before they can have a healthy connection with another person. It's tough, dude, because there's no certainty in life. And line 1s can spin their wheels for a long time before they figure out how to create that in themselves. So, best of luck, line 1s. You got this. Let's move on to line 2, which is freedom. That's wildness and boundaries. So the second line is always seeking freedom. In a developing child, this freedom is an essential ingredient in their early upbringing. This is the spirit that all children need, a healthy balance between freedom and, of course, the boundaries of safety, rules, all of that. You can consider your own upbringing if you have a line 2 and ask yourself, what was this balance like? Was there balance? If your boundaries as a child were lacking, then later in life, it is possible that your life may lack a solid sense of direction. Okay, we're doing our best out here, okay? However, second lines are here to teach us that true freedom and deep commitment can coexist. We can embrace our wildness while being completely devoted to another person. And that's the type of love we're here to pioneer. Line 3 is pleasure, adventure, and understanding. Line 3s are the most tough, but also the most vulnerable. So to be able to draw pleasure from life is a rare and precious gift. These people remind us why we're alive, but a lot of times little kids do not get this reinforcement. They had the opposite impression, which is that life is hard and miserable. If you had that kind of upbringing, then to move from the shadow to the gift frequency of your SQ, you got to access your childlike wonder. What did you love doing as a kid? Because line 3s are meant to be ecstatic. As a third line, you of all people are an ecstatic. To be an ecstatic means to suck the marrow out of life, to make the most of each day, and to learn to distinguish the essential from the inessential. What is essential to your joy? Human relationships are essential to joy. And in order to have a relationship with someone, we need to understand them and make an ongoing effort to understand them. I'm not gonna lie, third lines have a hard time committing because in shadow, they seek pleasure from distraction instead of from their personal relationships. Line threes, y'all gotta see commitment as the greatest adventure of all. If you wanna have long-term, close, intimate relationships, which again is essential to the joy of life, so get in there and make that commitment, y'all can do it. Line 4 is belonging, kinship, and community. And line 4s can actually get ruptured just from being in a nuclear family that's isolated from other families, because line 4s are wired to have much bigger communal relationships than most of us. In shadow, line 4 will seek community anywhere, even in places and with people that are not healthy for them. If you have a fourth line SQ, then you have to learn that having a sense of belonging comes from having an open heart. You can create belonging anywhere if your heart is open. So it has the potential in gift to be the most relaxed out of all the lines. But again, fourth lines need to remember that seeking community ain't it. If you open your heart, you will magnetize the right community for you. Not only that, but line 4s have the ability to make anyone feel at home. So if you're a line 4 and you find yourself seeking belonging, you're in shadow. The gift frequency has to do with creating belonging for others. And again, that comes from magnetizing people into your life, not chasing them. All right, line 5, so powerful, as always. Line 5 is the mentor. So that's role models and integrity. If you have a fifth line, start with contemplating your city, because that citic frequency is something that you as a fifth line have the unique ability to transmit, even if you're just like dabbling in the gift frequency. You're so powerful. So line 5s are imprinted from some role model or mentor we have. It could have been a parent, a grandparent, a teacher, whoever. But if that role model was solid, fifth lines SQs usually have an easy time stabilizing in their gift. But if that role model was wonky, then a lot of times they'll get locked in shadow patterns and seek power rather than benevolent leadership positions, even in relationships. So again, contemplate the city of your SQ and think about how much this quality is needed in the world. With a fifth line SQ, you can take one of two directions in life: the journey of love or the journey of power. Please choose love. It's the most powerful of all. And finally, the ever mysterious sixth line. This is the line of patience, time, and space. So line 6s don't try to spend your life understanding everything. That's a feature of the shadow frequency. You're desperate to understand. You feel misunderstood, blah, blah, blah. You just gotta be patient. 6 lines have the greatest ability of any of the SQ lines to be misunderstood because they feel so much and they actually embody all 5 of the other lines. If you have a line 6 SQ and you give yourself the time and space and loosen your grip on trying to understand everything, you become a laser beam of love. You're able to transmit love and spiritual healing like way more powerfully than any of the other lines. This book actually says that line 6 carry with it the genetic code of our common future. Y'all are bringing us back into unity consciousness, but only if you're patient with yourselves. And if you love a 6 line SQ, you gotta be patient with them too. Line 6s have a horrible time getting out of shadow if they're rushed or pressured. Again, that patience comes from giving them the time and space. Comes from giving yourself the time and space if you're a line 6. Last thing I'll say about line 6 is that it's y'all's job to use your relationships to literally dream of a better world. It's not casual. Line 6 is probably the toughest line of all the SQs, but it has the greatest role in ensuring the survival and the thriving of the human race. So thanks, y'all. We're just out here opening our hearts, facing our shadows. We're really doing it. I'm proud of us. I'm Molly. You're watching Mirror Readings, and please visit my website, mirrorreadings.com, if you'd like to get a reading from me. If you have any questions, email me, mirrorreadings@gmail.com. And subscribe to this channel to save 15% on all my offerings. Thanks, y'all. Till next time.